$38 trillion. That is America's national debt right now. Not projected, not estimated, actual debt sitting on the books today. For most people, that number feels unreal. It's too big to picture, so the brain ignores it. Life goes on, but history shows something important. The most dangerous economic shifts never begin with panic. They begin with comfort. They begin while everything feels normal. While people scroll social media, while they binge Netflix, while daily life looks unchanged, something rare starts happening quietly. Right now, the largest financial institutions on Earth are doing something they haven't done in decades. They are moving money, huge amounts of money, out of dollar-denominated assets. Not loudly, not suddenly, not with breaking news headlines. They are doing it slowly, systematically, carefully. This is not a conspiracy theory. This is visible in public data, treasury reports, capital flow records, institutional filings, numbers anyone can verify. And here's why that matters. Every time this process has started in the past, the outcome followed the same pattern, the same stages, the same warning signs, the same ending. Not because of politics, not because of ideology, but because of mathematics and human behavior. By the end of this video, you'll understand that pattern. You'll understand where we are right now, and why timing matters more than fear. To understand today, we have to understand how global financial dominance actually works. Money does not care about borders. It does not care about speeches. It does not care about promises. Money flows toward stability, toward trust, toward opportunity. When one country offers those better than anyone else, capital concentrates there, its markets deepen, its currency spreads, its influence grows. That is stage one of the cycle. The ascension phase. Confidence is high. Growth feels endless. The future looks secure. After World War II, the United States entered this phase. Europe and Asia were rebuilding. America's industry was intact. Its institutions were trusted. The dollar was tied to gold. Global trade settled in dollars. Foreign governments held dollars as reserves. This system worked for decades. Innovation surged. Living standards rose. Confidence became permanent. But success changes behavior. It always does. Over time, discipline fades. Borrowing becomes easier to justify. Intervention becomes expected. This is stage two, the overextension phase. Governments spend more to meet expectations. Central banks smooth every downturn. Markets learn that risk will be managed for them. Asset prices rise faster than productivity. Debt grows faster than the economy. And because everything still looks functional, few people worry. It feels like progress. It feels like control. But debt is not harmless. Debt is a claim on the future. When those claims grow faster than future output, pressure builds, quietly, relentlessly. This pressure shows up slowly. Rising interest costs, monetary expansion, growing dependence on confidence. Because confidence is the real foundation of any fiat system, and confidence does not collapse overnight. It erodes, first among insiders, then among institutions, finally among the public. This is stage three, the silent exodus. This is the most misunderstood phase. Markets may still rise. Headlines may still sound optimistic. Nothing appears broken. But behind the scenes, smart capital adjusts. Institutions managing trillions do not wait for consensus. They read balance sheets. They watch incentives. They calculate sustainability. When risk rises, they diversify. They reduce concentration. They reposition quietly. History shows something critical. Once this process begins, it almost never reverses. To see how reliable this pattern is, we need to look backward, not to opinions, to outcomes. The first clear example is 16th century Spain. Spain was the most powerful empire on earth. No rival came close. Gold and silver poured in from the Americas. Spanish currency became the global standard. Madrid became the financial center of the world. Confidence was absolute. Wealth felt endless. Power felt permanent. This was stage one, but abundance changed behavior. The crown funded constant wars, expanded bureaucracy, borrowed heavily to sustain control. Spending exploded. Revenue did not. Lenders were eager at first, European banks financed Spanish ambitions. But beneath the confidence, the numbers were deteriorating. Debt piled up. Interest rates climbed. Risk increased. Then something subtle happened. The people closest to the money moved first. Major banking families shifted assets abroad. Creditors demanded repayment in gold. Merchants diversified trade routes. This was stage 3. Invisible to the public. Obvious to insiders. Within years, the consequences arrived. Defaults, inflation, loss of trust. Spain's dominance collapsed rapidly. The money didn't disappear. It moved north. To the Dutch Republic, Amsterdam became the new financial center. Its banking system was advanced. Its trade networks were efficient. Once again, the cycle reset. Stage 1 returned. Growth, innovation, confidence. But the pattern did not vanish. Success again led to overextension. Wars expanded, debt increased, speculation exploded. Institutions quietly bent rules to sustain growth. And once again, insiders noticed first. Capital shifted toward London. Trade routes changed. Risk was repriced. When the system finally broke, it broke quickly. Years of imbalance surfaced at once. Dominance shifted again. This time to Britain, and here is the key lesson. Collapse is rarely sudden. It is prepared slowly, through incentives, through habits, through decisions made during success. This is why transitions feel confusing. Life continues normally, until it doesn't, and this is where we pause. Because in the next part, we'll see how Britain followed the same path, how the United States replaced it, and why today's signals matter more than most people realize. Britain became the next financial superpower. London turned into the center of global trade. The British pound became the world's reserve currency. Capital flowed into British banks from every continent. This was stage 1 again. Growth felt unstoppable. Industry expanded. The empire stretched across the globe. Confidence was everywhere. But dominance carries a cost. 2 world wars changed everything. Debt exploded. Gold reserves declined. Economic pressure intensified. To maintain power, Britain borrowed heavily. It tried to preserve influence while its balance sheet weakened. This was stage 2. Outward strength. Internal strain. And once again, insiders moved first. Capital quietly shifted to New York. Investors preferred American industry. Foreign governments began holding more dollars instead of pounds. There was no dramatic announcement. No official declaration. Just gradual repositioning. After World War II, the transition was complete. The United States became the center of the global financial system. The dollar replaced the pound as the reserve currency. Global trade was priced in dollars. America entered stage 1. Massive industrial capacity, young population, technological innovation, confidence was justified. For decades, productivity grew faster than debt. Manufacturing was strong. The middle class expanded. But over time, the structure shifted. Manufacturing moved overseas. Financialization increased. Consumption replaced production as the primary driver. Debt began growing faster than output. This was stage 2 again. Government spending increased. Corporate leverage expanded. Household credit became normalized. Every downturn was met with stimulus. Every crisis was met with liquidity. Markets adapted to support. Risk became easier to take. Asset prices climbed higher. But debt compounds. Interest payments grow. Policy flexibility shrinks. Confidence becomes more important than fundamentals. Now look at today. Foreign central banks are slowly reducing treasury exposure. Some countries are settling trade in alternative currencies. Gold purchases by governments are rising, not dramatically, but steadily. This is how stage 3 begins. Quiet diversification, measured repositioning, strategic hedging. It does not mean collapse tomorrow. It does not mean chaos next week. It means adjustment has started. And history tells us something important. Once global capital begins spreading out, it rarely reconcentrates the same way again. But here is the critical point. Transitions do not mean destruction. When Spain declined, the world did not end. When the Dutch faded, commerce continued. When Britain stepped back, global trade expanded further. The center shifted. Innovation continued. Opportunity remained. The same will be true here. The United States still leads in technology, it still attracts talent, it still drives global finance, but dominance is different from participation. Being the only center is not the same as being one of several centers. Multipolar systems are more complex, they are less predictable, but they are not inherently catastrophic. The real risk is not awareness, the real risk is denial. History rewards preparation, not panic. If you understand the pattern, you do not need fear, you need positioning. Every major transition followed the same emotional cycle. First, disbelief, then resistance, then acceptance. We are somewhere between disbelief and resistance, and that is normal, because change feels uncomfortable, but ignoring structural shifts has never stopped them. The goal is not to predict the exact date. The goal is to recognize the direction. Debt levels matter. Confidence matters. Capital flows matter. And right now, the signals suggest evolution, not explosion. The dollar may remain dominant for years, possibly decades. But the world is quietly building alternatives, not to destroy the system, but to reduce dependence. And that changes power dynamics. History does not repeat perfectly, but it rhymes clearly. Empires rise, they overextend. Capital diversifies. Influence redistributes. Then a new balance forms. We are not witnessing the end of everything. We are witnessing adjustment, and adjustment favors those who understand it early. So instead of asking, "Is collapse coming?" ask a better question. How is the system evolving? Because evolution is slower than collapse, but more powerful. The future will not belong to the loudest voices. It will belong to the most adaptable minds. And history suggests one final truth. Money never disappears. It moves,